The first-class cabin smelled of quiet money that polished leather scent, mixed with champagne already poured for the elite. It was the kind of luxury that whispered instead of shouted. A world where people smiled, but only with their lips. Carolyn Hunt stepped in like she owned the air itself. Her heels clicked sharply on the carpet, her designer scarf fluttering just enough to announce that she wasn't ordinary. She was Caroline Hunt, and she never blended into the background. Her diamond bracelet glinted under the warm cabin lights as she placed her leather handbag on the overhead rack. Sighing dramatically across from her, a young black woman, calm, well-dressed, focused, quietly adjusted her seat by the window. She wore no jewelry, no loud colors, just a gray blazer and that quiet confidence that never asks for attention. That woman was Dr. Maya Brooks. She had flown countless times before, but this flight was different. It wasn't a vacation. It was a journey toward an award, the Presidential Medal for Humanitarian Medicine. She had saved hundreds of lives, some with her hands, others with her words. But she knew that up here, at 30,000 feet, titles didn't matter. People still saw what they wanted to see. As the rest of the passengers boarded, Carolyn glanced sideways. Her smile faded the moment her gaze landed on Maya. Her tone dropped an octave, sharp and cold. "Excuse me?" She called out to the nearest flight attendant. The attendant, a young man named Jacob, turned quickly. Polite and professional. "Yes, ma'am. How can I assist you?" Caroline leaned closer, lowering her voice, but not enough that others couldn't hear. "I asked for a better seat," she said. "I don't want to sit next to her." Jacob blinked, unsure he'd heard right. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Could you clarify?" Caroline's lips tightened. "Don't make me repeat myself. I paid for first class. I expect a certain level of company." Her words sliced through the quiet hum of the cabin. A few passengers turned. Others pretended not to notice. Jacob's training kicked in, calm tone, measured smile. "Ma'am, I assure you, every passenger in this cabin has paid the same. We're completely booked. Every seat is taken." Caroline's eyes narrowed in disbelief. "Then move her," she said, motioning toward Maya with the smallest tilt of her chin. "Surely someone in economy belongs there more than I do." For a brief moment, the cabin went silent, except for the faint whir of air conditioning. The businessman across the aisle looked up from his laptop. A mother 2 rows behind pulled her child close, whispering something about not staring. Dr. Brooks didn't speak at first. She kept her gaze on the clouds outside the window, hands resting gently on her lap. When she finally turned, her tone was soft, almost gentle. "Don't trouble yourself," she said. "I assure you, I'll take up very little space." Her words were calm, but they carried the weight of someone who had heard too many versions of that same insult before. Caroline let out a sharp laugh. "It's not about space. It's about standards." Jacob's jaw tensed. His instincts screamed at him to say something, but his training told him to de-escalate. He took a slow breath. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "please lower your voice. Other passengers can hear." Carolyn crossed her arms, leaning back. "This airline used to have class," she muttered. Maya turned her face toward the window again. Outside, the morning light painted streaks of gold across the wing. It looked peaceful, ironic, considering how heavy the air inside the cabin had become. Jacob cleared his throat softly. "Can I offer you something to drink before takeoff?" "Champagne," Caroline said sharply. "Make sure it's cold." Then, glancing again at Maya, she added under her breath, "Some of us prefer quality." Jacob hesitated, then walked away, his shoulders tight. He wasn't new to difficult passengers, but this one left a different kind of silence behind. Dr. Brooks took a slow breath, her fingers tracing the corner of the boarding pass resting on her tray table. The small printed text read, "Seat 1B, Brooks. M. Priority passenger." She almost smiled at the irony. Across the aisle, a young couple whispered quietly. The woman frowned. That's awful. She didn't do anything. Her partner sighed. People like that always think they're above everyone. The captain's voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 400 to New York City. Estimated flight time, 2 hours and 50 minutes. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened. Caroline rolled her eyes. Finally, as the engines hummed to life, she muttered just loud enough for Maya to hear. I suppose they let anyone in first class these days. What's next? Sharing with mechanics. Dr. Brooks looked up slowly. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes carried quiet fire. I assure you, ma'am, she said softly, you're perfectly safe sitting next to me. I know exactly what to do if a heart stops. For a second, the air froze. Jacob, standing nearby, nearly dropped the champagne bottle. Caroline's face turned crimson, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Maya turned back toward the window, her voice barely above a whisper. It's always strange, isn't it? She said. How quickly fear forgets the hand that saves it. The engines roared louder, and the plane began to move. The runway blurred beneath them, gray turning to gold, then to sky. Inside the cabin, Jacob poured Caroline's drink, his voice quieter now. Here you go, ma'am. Caroline didn't respond. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted the glass. Dr. Brooks noticed, not in judgment, but in empathy. As the plane lifted off, sunlight spilled through the window, bathing both women in the same light, one burning with discomfort, the other glowing in quiet grace. No one said another word, but every passenger could feel it. The tension in row 1A wasn't about seating. It was about something deeper, something humanity still struggled to fix. Jacob walked past once more, glancing at Maya. Their eyes met briefly. He gave a silent nod, respect, apology, maybe both. Maya simply smiled back, a smile that said, "It's okay. I'm used to it." As the clouds thickened outside, Caroline shifted in her seat, frowning at the turbulence. She gripped her armrest tightly, her earlier arrogance dimming to unease. But for Dr. Brooks, the turbulence wasn't new. She had been flying through storms all her life, some made of clouds, others made of people, and yet every time she had landed with dignity. The aircraft steadied above the clouds, the cabin lights dimming to a warm amber glow. Engines purred beneath the floor, a deep, steady heartbeat that filled the silence between breaths. Flight 402 was officially on its way to New York City, but in row 1A, the air was still heavy. Jacob, the young attendant, moved carefully along the aisle with the practiced grace of someone who'd seen everything jet-lagged millionaires. Crying infants, broken hearts, but what had unfolded before takeoff had shaken even him. He glanced toward the window seat. Dr. Brooks sat quietly, tablet in hand, eyes scanning a patient report she had saved offline. The rhythmic hum of the engines seemed to match the calm of her breathing. Caroline, beside her, fidgeted with her bracelet, the diamonds catching and scattering light across the cabin wall. Every now and then, she stole a glance toward Maya, then quickly looked away, as if eye contact alone might lower her worth. The tiny movements gave her a wave, tapping of manicured fingers on the armrest, the restless shifting of her legs. Her discomfort was louder than words. Jacob approached with a tray. Would either of you care for refreshments? Champagne? Juice? Water? Caroline answered first, her tone clipped. Still water. Room temperature. Not that sparkling nonsense. Then, almost as an afterthought, she added, bring a glass, not plastic. This is first class, after all. Jacob nodded politely and turned to Maya. Doctor, just water, thank you, she said, her smile gentle. Cold is fine. Her voice carried calm authority, the kind that made people listen without knowing why. Jacob returned moments later. 2 identical glasses of water, condensation glistening under the light. He set one before each woman. Caroline noticed immediately. I asked for still water. This looks cold. Jacob swallowed. Yes, ma'am. It's chilled spring. Take it back, she snapped. Do I look like someone who drinks from a refrigerator? Maya turned her head slightly. Her tone was soft, but every syllable carried meaning. Maybe cold water isn't the worst thing that could touch warmth. Caroline froze for half a second, uncertain whether it was an insult or wisdom. Jacob hesitated, unsure whether to intervene. Maya lifted her glass, sipped quietly, and returned her gaze to the clouds. The plane rolled gently left, revealing the endless ocean of white below. Outside, sunlight scattered over the wings like molten gold. Inside, silence sat between them like a third passenger. Across the aisle, a middle-aged man looked up from his laptop. He'd been pretending not to listen, but the tension in the front row had drawn him in. He whispered to his seatmate, "People like her make the rest of us look heartless." His companion nodded, eyes on Maya. That woman's grace. Unreal. Caroline shifted again, catching the whispers. Her chin lifted defiantly. "I can hear you, you know," she said, loud enough for everyone to stop pretending. The cabin went still. Maya didn't flinch. Caroline continued, her voice dripping with false calm. "I'm simply saying some people should know their place. There's a reason society has." Jacob appeared beside her before she could finish. "Ma'am," he said quietly but firmly, "I'm going to have to ask you to keep your voice down. This is a shared space." Caroline's mouth tightened. Shared. She repeated, tasting the word like it was spoiled. Then she laughed softly. "Yes, I suppose we're all equal once the doors close, aren't we?" Her sarcasm bounced against the cabin walls, but it only made her sound smaller. Maya finally turned, her eyes calm, her tone even, no anger, just truth. "Equality isn't something that happens when the doors close, ma'am. It's something that exists whether you believe in it or not." The businessman across the aisle exhaled, murmuring, "Well said." Caroline looked stunned, then forced a laugh. "You must be some kind of philosopher." "Not quite," Maya replied. "Just a doctor. I study the heart. It has a lot to teach about character." Jacob froze in place. Passengers exchanged quiet looks. Even the soft buzz of the engines seemed to fade beneath the weight of the moment. Caroline opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her water. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Somewhere near the back of the cabin, a baby began to cry. The sound, oddly, broke the tension. Jacob walked away to help, grateful for the distraction. Maya exhaled slowly, lowering her gaze to the tablet in her lap. Our screen showed an image of a human heart, delicate arteries, intricate valves. She zoomed in on one cross-section, highlighting a scarred region labeled recovery. Her thumb lingered there for a second longer than necessary. In the seat beside her, Caroline leaned back, closing her eyes. Her breathing slowed. The steady rhythm of the aircraft began to lull her, but guilt lingered like a faint ache she couldn't name. 15 minutes passed. The attendant lights dimmed. The cabin settled into the quiet hum of cruise altitude. Jacob walked by again, stopping briefly. "Everything all right here?" Maya nodded. "All good." Caroline didn't answer. She stared ahead, jaw tight. Then, in a softer voice than before, she asked, "So, you're really a doctor?" Maya glanced sideways. "Yes." Caroline hesitated. "What kind?" "A cardiothoracic surgery," Maya said simply. Caroline raised an eyebrow. "Heart surgery?" "That's right." A pause. "Well," Caroline muttered, "I suppose that explains the confidence." Maya smiled faintly. Confidence doesn't come from the title. It comes from the work it took to earn it. Caroline looked out the window. watching sunlight flicker across the clouds. Her next words were barely audible. Must have been hard. Maya nodded slowly. It was, but not harder than staying quiet when people think they already know who you are. The line hit harder than either of them expected. Carolyn turned away, pretending to check her phone. The captain's voice broke through the silence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're expecting mild turbulence ahead. Please fasten your seatbelts. The seatbelt sign blinked on with a soft chime. Caroline clicked hers immediately, gripping the armrest as the plane dipped slightly. Maya remained calm, hands folded in her lap. Caroline's breathing quickened. How bad will it get? Not bad, Maya said gently. Just the sky reminding us it's alive. A shudder ran through the fuselage, a quick drop that made a few passengers gasp. Caroline's hand shot out, gripping the side of her seat. Maya placed a steadying hand on the armrest between them. Deep breaths, she said softly. In and out. Caroline obeyed without thinking. The trembling in her fingers eased. The turbulence passed within minutes, leaving behind an uneasy calm. Caroline let out a long exhale. I hate flying, she admitted. Always have. Maya smiled faintly. Strange. I find it peaceful. Up here, every destination feels possible. Caroline looked at her for the first time without disdain. Something in Maya's poise, her unbothered calm, was disarming. It made Caroline's excuses crumble quietly inside her. The seatbelt sign clicked off. Jacob's voice came through the PA, steady and bright. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin our meal service shortly. Please relax and enjoy the flight. Caroline glanced at Maya again. You really believe that? That every destination is possible? Maya's eyes softened. I have to. I work on hearts that people say can't be fixed. And yet, somehow, they beat again. For a fleeting moment, Caroline smiled. Then she looked away, embarrassed by her own humanity. Outside, the clouds thinned, revealing streaks of sunlight over the Atlantic. The peace wouldn't last. Unless. Then an hour, that same heart Maya spoke of would falter not in metaphor, but in truth. And the woman who had questioned her worth would beg for her strength. The engines hummed louder, steady and oblivious. Flight 402 flew on toward a lesson neither woman knew she was about to live.